Hello everyone, Hideout here with my final build guide for Sunbreak, which fun enough is gonna be for the last of my main weapons for Sunbreak, which is the Insect Glaive. So unlike my previous two build guides for Sunbreak, for Dual Blades and Surge/Greatsword, which were mainly focused on building for the playstyles and then giving gameplay tips and whatever here and there, this build guide is gonna be a little bit different. Because building for Insect Glaive, it's pretty straightforward, and you're gonna realize that once we get into the building portion of the guide. I wanna dedicate most of this video to clearing up confusion that I tend to see when people see Insect Glaive gameplay and they see the Kinsect managing, the buffs, when to use aerial attacks, when to use ground attacks, like all that stuff that tends to get people confused in my experience of browsing the internet. I will try to make my best attempt to put that confusion to rest throughout this video. With that said, the video is gonna be breakdown into what weapons we're gonna be using, what builds we want to be using, depending on if we play for raw or elemental. Also what Kinsects you want to be using, again, depending on if you're going raw or elemental. And also a breakdown of the Insect Glaive mechanics that I just mentioned, like how to manage your Kinsect, your buffs, all that stuff. Plus, of course, in the same spirit as my Dual Blades and Greatsword guide, I'm also gonna be giving you gameplay tips here and there to try to give you a little extra step in or two in what should be your general game plan when you're using the Insect Glaive to hunt a monster. So, with all that information out of the way, let's immediately jump into our first segment, which weapons you should be using. Pretty straightforward with the weapons that we should be using, as you can see. Now, some notes that you have to keep in mind. All of the elemental weapons are gonna be augmented in the same way, that is prioritizing the elemental attack upgrades as you augment them with a single raw attack augment to finish off the build. Also, in terms of Rampage decorations, you want to be using obviously the Elon Bane decoration every single matchup where it applies. But of course, unlike other weapons where if you can't use the Elon Bane Rampage deco, then you usually rely on the anti-species ones. For Insect Glaive, this doesn't happen. With Insect Glaive, instead, when you can't use the Elon Bane Rampage deco, you want to use the Supercharged Rampage deco. Also, on the raw side of the weapons, you can see here that the only option that I'm offering you is the Lucent Nargacuga Insect Glaive, which is a poison insect glaive. This is for two reasons. Number one, it has the best stats for a non-elemental weapon, but also it has access to poison, which is the best status to face the endgame of Sunbreak. And if you're gonna ask in the comments about the other statuses like Blast, Paralyze, or Sleep, well, don't don't trust me on this one. I'm gonna explain this one a little bit more later, but trust me on this one. Just don't. Now moving on to the build portion of this build guide. As I previously mentioned, building for Insect Glaive is pretty straightforward. The only difference is gonna be if you're going for a raw Insect Glaive compared to if you're going for a elemental Insect Glaive. But regardless, I'm gonna be showing you the templates that you should probably be aiming for at the endgame for each playstyle. I'm gonna offer you both a safe version that relies on evasion skills and for the most part, 0 HP drain skills. And also I'm gonna offer you the counterpart, which actually rely in an HP drain skill in the form of Dereliction, to squeeze just a little bit more damage than the evade version. Regardless, I'm gonna leave you with the templates right now, and I'm gonna come back at the end of this segment just to clarify some stuff here and there. With all that building mumbo jumbo out of the way, now I want to transition into the first segment that is gonna be relevant for the people that are trying to play this weapon for the first time, this being the extract or buff system of the Insect Glaive. So for the Insect Glaive to fully function as a weapon, it relies on 3 buffs that you need to collect from the monster through the help of your Kinsect. These are the Rex Extract, the most important out of the 3, because this single buff will unlock more than half of your Insect Glaive moveset, and therefore you should never try to fight a monster without securing this buff first. Then you get your White Extract, which provides you with some movement speed. And last but not least, you have the Orange Track, which provides you with a little bit of knockback protection when using attack moves. Each of these buffs works individual in the sense that when you get the extract and you have it on you, they operate in their own timers that expire independent of each other. But when you combine all 3 buffs, you get the triple buff extension, which will now unify all 3 buffs under a single countdown, and when said countdown expires, all 3 buffs are gonna be gone, until of course you collect them again. Outside of extending the countdown remaining of your buffs, when you get the triple buff, this is also when you unlock
the awesome effects.
With the extract system covered, it's only fair to now move on onto our little partners, the Kinsects themselves. The little bug that is on our arms every time we grab an Insect Glaive, which believe it or not, he's like half of our weapon. Not precisely like in damage perhaps, but in terms of utility and whatnot, this bug is what makes the Insect Glaive works. So starting things off, which Kinsects should you be using, right? Because up until this point, I gave you what weapons you should be using, which armor sets you should be using, how you should be building. I explained to you the buff system. Now the only question remaining is, which of these many Kinsects I should be using? Well, first of all, allow me to explain you something about the Kinsects. You see all this variety of bugs that you have at your disposition, like so many options, so many colors, so many bugs, yeah. Know that most of these bugs, they are trash.
Y'all are trash. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Y'all are trash.
Okay, trash is like kind of a meme term. Let's just say that most of them are like redundant in the sense that a bunch of them do the same things with slight changes here and there. So because there are only slight changes in between most of them, there are clear winners here. So to kick this off with the Kinsects that you actually want to be using, it's actually just 2 of them, or well 4 depending on the attack type of the Kinsect, but I'm gonna explain that in a little bit. For now, understand that there are only 2 main Kinsects that you want to use. These are the boosted powder Kinsects from the Sunbreak expansion itself. You want to pair these assist type Kinsects with your elemental builds, and then you have the dual color defense all the way back into the base game. These also assist type Kinsects are the ones that you want to pair with your raw build. Now this one I'm gonna explain in a little bit more later, but there's a third Kinsect that is also worth mentioning, and these one are the Powder Vortex ones that are also from the Sunbreak expansion. Now, before moving on to specifics of the Kinsects and why we're choosing them, something that I want to clarify about the Kinsects themselves, okay? If you look at the equipment info on a Kinsect, you will see several different stats. You can safely ignore most of them. You have the attack type and the Kinsect type. These 2 will affect what the Kinsect is gonna be doing alongside you during the fight. And then you have the Kinsect bonus, which is like the Kinsect own unique gimmick, which separates him from the others. For example, the boosted powder Kinsects that I mentioned that you should be using with your elemental builds, you want to go ahead and try to use specifically the Severing attack one. I mentioned this because all Kinsects come in two variants, a Severing attack type and a Blunt attack type. And outside of the specific, the Kinsects usually are the same in everything else. And the difference between a Severing Kinsect and a Blunt Kinsect is quite simple. The Severing Kinsect will add additional slashing damage on each of its attacks, either when he's attacking alongside you or by its own, the enemy monster. And these Severing attacks will also apply damage based on the element of the Insect Glaive that you're currently using. It is for this specific reason that you should use a Sever type Kinsects with elemental builds. The Blunt attack type Kinsects, they don't benefit from this elemental conversion, which is why you should avoid them for elemental builds. But instead, what they do is KO damage. This means that the more your Kinsect attacks by itself a monster, you will eventually be able to KO the monster, despite using for the most part an slash weapon. And it is actually for this reason that when you're using a raw build, your best Kinsect, it's usually gonna be the dual color defense from the base game with the Blunt attack type. Because using Severing with the raw Insect Glaive is not gonna be like a significant increase in damage compared to an elemental build. Instead, it is better if we just focus on getting like extra KOs through all playthrough, and that way we can get more free diving wyverns, which is our main way of doing damage with the raw build onto the monster. And last but not least, the reason why we're choosing these specific Kinsects out of the bunch is for their Kinsect bonuses. For you see, the boosted powder Kinsect bonus means that when you let your Kinsect attack the monster, or when you attack the monster yourself, using specifically the Tetrasil slash move, you will mark the monster and attack alongside your Kinsect. And in doing so, after a certain number of hits from your Kinsect, you will pop a little like powder cloud that will stay in the air for around 30 to 40 seconds. And this cloud is special. Why do you ask? Well, you see, each and every single one of these clouds that you generate will refresh your triple buff duration for 30 seconds. On the other side of this X spectrum, we have the dual color defense Kinsect. Every time we send this Kinsect out to grab an extract, instead of grabbing a single particular buff from a monster part, he's gonna grab two. Now, the way these Kinsects work is that they usually grab a specific color, like regardless of what monster part you hit, and then the second color is the one that is gonna depend on what monster part you're hitting. And it's for this particular reason that we're gonna be using specifically the defense dual color Kinsect out of the bunch, because the defense Kinsect is gonna guarantee an orange extract regardless of what monster parts we hit. And on average, on a monster body, the orange extract tends to be the hardest to find or to casually grab while fighting a monster, because this color tends to correspond to the monster main body usually. And the main body tends to be blocked by, you know, claws, legs, wings, like whatever appendages the monster has. So it's kind of hard to like consistently get it on some, if not most monsters. Therefore, using a Kinsect that can guarantee you that specific extract regardless of where you hit, it's pretty powerful. The other reason why we want this Kinsect is because it synergizes insanely well with the raw playstyle of the Insect Glaive, which revolves around spamming your Kinsect slash move as much as possible on a monster weak spot, and then finish it off if possible with the diving wyvern. The reason why this synergizes so well is because, well, because we are not doing ground combos like with elemental Insect Glaive, and instead we are just spamming our aerial attacks, which are just, well, single hit moves. We're not gonna generate enough hits if we were to use a boosted Powder Kinsect to generate the clouds that can give us the potential infinite triple buff of the elemental Insect Glaive playstyle. So instead we resort to the dual color Kinsect because with 2 extracts we can potentially grab our entire buff. Hell, it is even possible to do it in a single extract if you can land the Kinsect hit anywhere on the monster except the head or whatever monster part is gonna give you the red extract, and then you can use your Kinsect slash to extract the red extract on your first aerial move, giving you a triple buff in a single extract of the Kinsect and a single move from yourself. A pretty strong combo, and one that you should practice and try to learn how to pull off casually while playing with your raw Insect Glaives. Okay, so to finally close things off on this build guide, we're finally gonna be talking about the switch skill loadout that you should be using with your Insect Glaive. So, choosing your switch skill loadout for Insect Glaive, it's extremely straightforward. As you can see, for your first move between Leaping Slash and Advancing Roundslash, you wanna be using your Advancing Roundslash like 99% of the time. Leaping Slash is honestly just a memory from the past, where it was the default move that you get for your Insect Glaive, but the Advancing Roundslash, like, it's so much better in every single regard that you should be using this moveset, as I said, 90% of the time. For your second switch skill selection between Tornado Slash and Tetrasil Slash, again, Tornado Slash is just a memory of the past where it used to be the default move for the Insect Glaive. Tetrasil Slash, it's like such an overpowered move for Insect Glaive compared to the rest of the moveset. Like, this move single-handedly keeps the Insect Glaive in the game at the end game due to its high overall motion values, great elemental attack values, and overall utility. For your third and last selection of switch skills, you have to choose between Jumping Advancing Slash and Kinsect Slash. As it is the theme with these switch skills, the Jumping Advancing Slash is just a memory of the past. Like, this move is single-handedly responsible for the aerial playstyle of the Kinsect being a meme, because while the move is fun to pull off and it looks pretty fun to use, it's actually really bad. Like, the damage is really low, it leaves you way too exposed because the animation takes too long to finish. Like, it is just a really bad move. Kinsect Slash, on the other hand, it's an amazing aerial move, and I really hope that it becomes a mainstay for the Insect Glaive moving forward into future Monster Hunter games, because the Kinsect Slash is everything the Jumping Advancing Slash should have been. It is a single precise hit that you can execute in the air, does damage in a single instance, applies damage from your Kinsect on said single instance, and to top it all off, you can actually extract from the monster while using this move. And in this way, you have 2 potential ways to extract your buffs from the monster: sending your Kinsect the vanilla way and also using Kinsect Slash on monster parts. For the Silk by move selection, you want to be using your Diving Wyvern, regardless of if you're going for a raw build, which relies on this move for pulling off consistent DPS, or an elemental based build, which only uses this move occasionally and when the opportunity arises. You wanna use your Diving Wyvern. It is your strongest hitting move on Insect Glaive regardless of build, so it is a no-brainer to use. And for our last selection of switch skill, we're gonna be choosing the Silkbind Vault move, which number 1 allows us to get into the air from the ground way faster than with the normal Vault move. But not only that, we can also use this move while in the air to refresh our mobility, since usually when you are in the air with the Insect Glaive, you get a single jump to reposition, and then you can use like one aerial attack, either the Kinsect Slash or the helicopter move, depending on which one is equipped, where if those moves connect with the monster, you get another chance to jump and reposition or repeat that move up to 3 times. After the third use of an aerial move that lands on a monster, you will be forced to go into the ground. So when that happens, you should probably go for your finisher, the Diving Wyvern. And as I've been saying throughout this guide, each build for the Insect Glaive plays slightly different from one another. While you can mix and match how you wanna play it, if you really wanna go about Insect Glaive optimally, you should really follow these guidelines to your playstyle. Well played with the raw Insect Glaive. You don't want to go around spamming combos. Your gameplay should look something like this. You go close to the monster, hit it with your Kinsect, try and go for the triple buff, use your Kinsect Slash, spam your Kinsect Slash on a monster weak zone, and then finish it off with a diving one. And this is really important, when you land on the ground after your diving wyvern, okay? You really want to try and pull off a Tetrasil slash, preferably on the monster head, and then you go back into the air and repeat this loop, and doing so will land you 2 or 3 knockdowns throughout the hunt, facilitating more diving wyverns at full damage, and spamming this loop over and over again. It's gonna be your highest DPS when playing with the raw build. For the elemental Insect Glaive, things change slightly. Instead of relying on spamming diving wyvern over and over again in the weak spot of the monster, instead what you want to do is just grab your triple buff, like always. And the moment you get your red stack or your triple buff, you just want to go ham on a monster weak spot, spamming your Tetrasil slash as much as you can. Like, avoid going aerial unless it is necessary for reposition, you know? Like, avoid it, just try to spam as much as you can. Tetrasil slash, this is your highest damaging move when going elemental. And as you can see right now on the screen, you generate a lot of the boosted powder clouds that I previously explained. Meaning that the more you spam the Tetrasil slash on a monster, not only you do high damage, but you spawn a lot of powder boosted clouds, allowing you to keep refreshing your triple buff timer over and over and over, and potentially keep it through the entire hunt. And the last playstyle that I want to showcase, and that I've been saving to the end of this guide, mainly because it's not really like a truly viable playstyle, especially like at the end game or multiplayer. Like, it's not really like good because it has too many downsides. But here's a playstyle that when you're playing solo, and especially if you're just trying to have fun, it can be like pretty viable, which is the Powder Vortex playstyle. This playstyle is really unique because it plays like kind of a mix of the previous two, where despite that we're using a raw status build, you still wanna play like you're doing an elemental build where you spam Tetrasil slash, and I'm gonna show you why. So when playing with the Powder Vortex Kinsect, like with elemental builds, you wanna grab your triple buff one at a time, and when you got your triple buffs, you wanna go ahead and try to spam Tetrasil slash as much as possible. But here's the difference. You see how the Kinsect is generating a bunch of powder clouds? These powder clouds are where your damage is coming with this build. Because when you get like enough of them in the air, you can call your Kinsect close to the monster, use the special recall from this Kinsect, and boom. Do one explosion that does pretty good damage. So the gameplay loop here is gonna be looking like this. You're just gonna be spamming your Tetrasil slash. Try to always reposition in different places, because one of the many downsides of this playstyle is that you can accidentally detonate early these powder vortexes, which is a problem because if you do so, you would get like way less damage than if you properly detonate them with the special recall. But yeah, pretty straightforward gameplay. You just want to spam Tetrasil slash all over the monster. Always try to reposition so that your Kinsect doesn't overlap with you and you don't detonate the clouds early. Then pull the recall and boom. For this specific playstyle, you can use either a paralyzed Kinsect or a sleep Kinsect. I personally like to use the sleep Kinsect because it opens the door to cause like some really big explosions. and it's extremely satisfying when you pull it off. But if you find it difficult to time these bombs with the monster falling asleep, you can always go for a paralyzed Kinsect. At the end of the day, the idea is to use a Kinsect that is gonna stop the monster in their tracks, so that you can take advantage of your powder explosion. Whew. Yeah, I think that's enough talk about sticks and bugs for a while. With that, we reached the end of this guide. Thank you so much, guys, for sticking up to me. Wow. While this guide, unlike the previous two, I actually feel satisfied with the quality of it, the information I shared, and all of that. I am still slightly frustrated that it took me so long to get it out. Like, hell, the game has already been over for like a couple of months, and at this point I'm just doing this guide for my subscribers that were expecting it from me. So thank you guys for sticking with me, and sorry that it took me so long to get it out. But yeah, as I said at the beginning, this is gonna be my last build guide for Sunbreak, since I don't really feel like I have enough knowledge about any other weapon in the game to where I can make like another of these in-depth guys. Like, as I have mentioned many times throughout my streams, either on Twitch or here on YouTube, while I play every single weapon with the exception of the ranged weapons to a certain extent, only these weapons that I made the in-depth guides plus longsword are like the weapons that I actually play a lot, and I feel confident in giving like advice and whatnot. And if you're gonna ask about like an in-depth longsword guide, come on, bro. Like, longsword is literally the most popular weapon in the game. There is like nothing that I can share with you that you can't find already floating on the internet or even here on YouTube. So like, yeah, an in-depth longsword guide is not happening. But anyways, that doesn't mean that my coverage of Sunbreak is gonna end on the channel. Well, I've been going back to Monster Hunter World on this past couple of weeks, and you can catch me live playing the game every Saturday. I still have a couple of projects related to Sunbreak that I wanna get here on the channel before like an eventual full move on, or well, more like a temporary move on, because I'm gonna be honest, I'm not the type of person to put a Monster Hunter game down. I am constantly jumping between these games through my life, but that's just me. So yeah, for next projects, after this video, I plan to follow it up with an explanation to my earlier statement as to why, out of all the status in the game, Poison is objectively speaking the best. I will be doing a little, let's call it an essay video, explaining like the mechanics and the reasoning behind that statement for the people who are not clear about it, or that want to discuss that certain status are better or whatever. And after that, I'm gonna be uploading to a mix of, as I mentioned, a couple of hunts and certain gimmick videos that I want to do on Sunbreak, and I'm also gonna be mixing it up with a couple of Monster Hunter World runs. I hope that you guys are up to that here on the channel. Last but not least, thank you so much, guys, once again for sticking with me. And if you're new to this channel and this is the first video that you have seen from me, as I alluded throughout this video, I have an in-depth guide for Dual Blades and for Sword/Greatsword, or Elemental Greatsword if you want to keep it short. So if you have any interest in those alongside the Insect Glaive, feel free to check those. I'll probably put them right here on the screen if possible. Also consider leaving a like if this video was helpful to you. If you're new, consider subscribing. I'll keep covering Monster Hunter like beyond this game. for the foreseeable future of the channel. And yeah, I think that's everything. So I'll see you guys on the next video, and take care of yourselves. Happy hunting, guys.